Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jump and today I'm doing my top 5 favourite Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess boss fights. Now, within Twilight Princess, I feel like there's a lot of the boss fights in that game is quite memorable, and I feel like that out of all of the Zelda games, I feel like Twilight Princess has the most memorable boss fights within that game. And I think it's because of where they're located, how you fight them, and what kind of items that you use to fight them. So yeah, so for number 5 is Zand. Now what I like about Zand is that this boss fight takes place in a variety of boss rooms that you've played or you fought in previous dungeons, as well as several mini boss dungeon rooms. And I feel like that's a really cool and interesting battle because that puts you on your feet and you don't know what you're expecting, because Zand is one of those crazy sort of characters and he's sort of like unhinged at this point in the game. And I really like how you go to different boss fight rooms and mini boss fight rooms. So for example, you go to the very first mini boss room, and then that means you have to use your Gale Boomerang, and then when it goes to the boss room of the Forest Temple, you have to use a boomerang again to try and hit him with bombs, and then when it gets to like the Water Temple, you have to use the hook shots as well as your Zora armor and the iron boots. And it's really interesting because you have to really think on your feet and see how you can try and outmaneuver Zand. And I do like it how at the end of the fight, I think the final arena that you're in is outside Hyrule Castle, and this is basically Zand at his most unhinged. And I think the final area is a really cool and interesting fight against Zand. So yeah, for number 4 is Blizzita. Now, what I like about Blizzita is that it's basically a Yeti, or the wife of Yeto, I think, and its wife being called Yetta. And I feel like that Yetta was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and I feel like that with how she was ill when she first saw the Mirror of Twilight is kind of an emotional one, because even though you have to get the Mirror of Twilight, it's almost as if you don't want to fight Yetta herself, because she's just an innocent person, or Yeti in her case, that just so happened to come across a piece of the Mirror of Twilight. But for the boss fight itself, I do quite enjoy, because you have to use your ball and chain to hit several ice chunks that Blizzita can create, and as well you have to fight against the slippery floor, because the entire room is made of ice, including the floor. And I feel like that's an interesting way to play the boss fight, because you have to basically see where Blizzita is going to use her attacks, and then also try and predict where yourself is going to go and slide around. And I do like how both phases are quite different. So with the first phase, Blizzita becomes a giant ice creature thing, and then in the second phase, she locks herself in this chunk of ice and summons other smaller chunks and tries and traps you and then hits you herself. And I feel like they're a really enjoyable boss battle because of all of those different elements that you can use, and also if they use ball and chain to hit Blizzita herself. For number 3 is Ganondorf. Now, what I like about this fight is that it's kind of similar to Zand's one, in which there's multiple phases. So, and with Ganondorf's one, I think there's 4 phases to this one, because with the first phase, he's basically Puppet Zelda, and you basically have to do Ganondorf tennis. And then with the second phase, you basically have to defeat Beast Ganon, which is a really enjoyable battle. And then with the third phase, you basically have to fight off Ganondorf on horseback, along with Zelda firing the Bow of Light. And then with the final phase, it's basically a one-on-one fight between Ganondorf and Link. Now, this entire fight is really enjoyable because it's basically Ganon as basically its most Ganondorf-inness in terms of how he's using his powers. Because in the first phase, when you're fighting against Zelda, it's kind of like, oh, he's using your friend against you, and it's kind of like similar to how Blizzita was. He's basically Ganondorf is using an innocent person against you, and I feel like it has that more. You got a lot of attachment to Zelda because she's helped you in various ways, like how she helped out with Minda by giving her some of her power to help her when Zand forced Minda to go into the light and almost kill her. And with the second phase, with Beast Ganon, it's like it's sort of like an intimidating version of Ganon, and also it's kind of similar to how Link transforms, because if you look at both the way Ganondorf and Link transform is very similar to when they become their beast forms. It would have been nice if Ganon had his two swords with him, like his two massive swords with him, but we got an intro of the second phase. For the third phase, which is on horseback, I think it's a really cool attribution or phase, because you've got both Link and Zelda teaming together and basically trying to hit Ganondorf with the Bow of Light as well as the Master Sword. This particular phase of the fight, phase 3, is probably my least favourite part of the phase, because it is very difficult to hit Ganondorf with the Bow of Light. Well, in terms of how I try and hit Ganondorf, because even though you try to see target onto him and try and hit him with the Bow of Light, a lot of the time I do miss. And the final phase, where you have to go one-on-one, I really enjoy, because it's basically two well-known characters basically going at it, and I think this is a really enjoyable boss battle, and also it's a good final boss as well. For number 2 is Armagoma. Now, what I like about Armagoma is that it's basically, I think for Armagoma it's the best version of Goma that we've seen so far in any Zelda game, because within the Zelda series we have seen various forms of Goma. We have seen her as a sort of big crab spider thing in the original Zelda. We've seen her in Ocarina of Time, and we've seen her in The Wind Waker. But I think the one in Twilight Princess is possibly the best version of Goma, because it's basically the one that most looks like like a spider. And also, I like the boss battle because it uses the bow and the Dominion Rod, and I think those are two quite good, interesting combinations of items to use, because with the Dominion Rod, you have to use it on one of the big statues when you hit Goma in the eye with the bow. And the boss fight, the second phase, is kind of more of a letdown, because it's just basically a small spider with a giant eye. And I feel like the first phase, where you have to fight Armagoma as a giant spider, is a lot more intimidating because of the sheer size of her. And I do like it how she sometimes spews out smaller spiders, kind of like how Ocarina of Time did it. And I feel like that's a really, enjoyable mix, because you have to not only focus on Goma, but also focus on the spiders. Also, Goma can fire lasers, which is okay, I guess. I mean, it does draw some intimidation away from her just because of the laser beam attack. I mean, it's a nice addition. It makes for more of a challenging boss fight, but I feel like the laser is a bit of an add-on to her, and I feel like it shouldn't be there. It just feels weird to me personally. And for number 1 is Starlord. Now, what I like about Starlord is that he's basically a giant skeletal monster that's been brought to life by Zand, and I do like how you use the spinner against him, because for the first phase you basically have to hit Starlord's spine, and then for the second phase you basically have to hit his head, which is alive, and you have to then hit him with the Master Sword. And I think the arena that you're in is like a really nice and interesting one, because for the first phase, when you have to hit spine, the entire arena is covered with sand, and you basically have to use the outer arena or the outer rails to basically use the spinner. And then when it comes to second phase, where you have to go up the spiral thing, you have to use the inner spiral, and then you have to jump between the rails, which I think is quite interesting and quite cool, because the more times you jump, the closer you get to Starlord's head. And I think it's a really enjoyable boss battle, and I think it's like probably one of the best ones in the game. So that's been my top 5 favourite boss fights from The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.